Hello everyone and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm product director, director of product development, whatever that title is, it doesn't matter. The important part is I'm Will Schick and I'm excited to be here with you today to paint some Star Wars Legion. I'm going to be painting a Tauntaun rider in celebration of the upcoming Echo Base Defenders Battle Force. And we'll talk a little bit about what that battle force is like as we get going here, but I love Tauntauns, so of course I had to make sure that I painted the Tauntaun today on stream. So we're just going to dive right in and get going with this thing and have some fun. So with that, let's get going. Oh, did I seem a little down last week? I don't think I was feeling a little under the weather like the week before, so I think I might have still been like picking that up. But I'm doing pretty good. So thank you for checking in. All right. So I think I'm just going to do kind of a traditional Tauntaun. I've got my reference photo up. And one of the things that I like about the photo I picked is the Tauntaun looks really blue. He's gotten a lot of blue undertone. So I'm going to find myself a nice blue to play with. Maybe this Riven Gray. Maybe. Let's do that. Yeah, let's give that a try. So we're going to use some Riven Gray. And we're just going to do a little bit of undertone. The Tauntaun smells terrible. Terrible! X-Wing 2.5. It is off to licensing for approvals and graphic design and stuff, so we should still be on track for this month. A little bit of that is somewhat out of our hands. Oh, that's too thick. We need more water, more liquid. There we go. But we still should be looking pretty good for middle of this month. So I guess with February being a weird month, that might be actually the end of February, I suppose, because we lose a week. But everything's put together. We're working on it. It's got to go through all of the final stages of finish and then approvals. And then we'll post it up. There's going to be a fun little article that goes along with it, so that should be pretty good. So that answers that. I'm losing. Hey, Miss Summer, can you make the chat so I can see the bottom of it? Because I can't see any of the new questions. I can only see the old questions. It's very confusing. So basically what I'm doing with this little Tauntaun here, let get going. If you're curious about how I'm approaching the painting, just using this Riven Gray. I turned it into a very thin wash. I'm kind of just using it to contrast under the fur, and then we can go back through and we can do some dry brushing and all of that. And this will give us our nice blue undertone that's in this photo of one Commander Luke Skywalker riding his Tauntaun that I picked out for inspiration for this basic Tauntaun rider. There we go. What do battle forces mean for Imperials? Well, Dallas last week painted some ATSTs. That obviously was kind of a nod to the Imperial Force, which is Blizzard Force, which opposes our Rebel Echo Base Defenders Force that I'm working on right now. So, of course, ATSTs, part of the assault on Hoth and Echo Base. But yeah, the battle forces are very cool. New additions to the game. We've talked a lot about them. Pagani and I were on several podcasts with the community. I think all of those episodes have posted up now. So to give you a quick recap, if you haven't heard us talk about any of those, effectively, battle forces are brand new ways to construct a army in Legion. They are fully valid under all rules. So if you go to a tournament, you can absolutely take your battle force to the tournament, and they're competitively viable and all of that stuff. The big things with them is that what do I want to do for our pants here? I think I'm going to start with Rainy Gray. And let's see, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So you can play them in any normal mode within the game, so you can take them to a tournament. They're competitively viable and tournament legal. All that good stuff. Looks like these pants here are kind of gray, so we'll start there. Effectively, they fundamentally change the army construction rules for Legion. So normally when you build an army for Legion, you follow the core rules instructions for building an army. So 3 core choices, 1 commander, and then all the other options that you have between special forces and supports and heavies and that kind of stuff. The first big thing with battle forces is that typically they completely put the normal force construction on its head. And the way they do that can be through offering different Army Force Org options. So, for example, one of the big ones with Echo-based Defenders is it's going to be the very first time you can actually play with the entire original trilogy cast on the table. So if you happen to really like running Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Leia, R2-D2, and C-3PO all at the same time, the Echo-based Defenders Force is kind of built around the idea of getting that entire cast together and having them all run on a table. So you can do that with this one. Whereas with the Imperial Blizzard Force, it kind of focuses more on heavy armor with the ATSTs, and then of course snow troopers being led by either Vader or General Veers. So there's a bit of a different thing going on there. If you also like playing with emplacements, the FD laser cannons, those are kind of a feature of, just looking for my paint options here. I think this will work. It's a little more brown. The FD laser cannons play a pretty big role in the Echo-based Defenders Force. I like this Star Brown. And every battle force, in addition to having its own kind of unique or different Army force construction compared to the one in the core book, also limits your options to certain troop choices, unit choices, commander choices that are all thematic. So for example, you can't take shore troopers, you can't take death troopers in your Blizzard Force because they didn't participate in that engagement. So your options are pretty limited in that way, and that's part of the balancing that goes around with them, is that you gain certain benefits, but you also sacrifice customization and flexibility a little bit in terms of what options you can take. And on top of that, in certain cases, battle forces, in addition to giving you that new force org, can also give you brand new command cards that can only be taken with the battle force. So, for example, the Echo-based Defenders and the Blizzard Force both have 3 brand new command cards that you can take when you use the battle forces with them. And these really play to the strengths of what the battle force wants to do. So one of the cards for Echo-based Defenders actually gives all emplacements a standby token. So like I said, the FD laser cannons are kind of stars of the show if you want to build around them with the Echo-based stuff. And that command card is quite potent and was one of the fun parts during testing that we got to really check out, have the playtesters look at and stuff like that. But one of the neat things about designing and developing battle forces is everybody has units in the game that they might love or have a strong affinity to. And maybe they don't work as well as other options in the normal force org. Battle forces are kind of a way to explore different builds, to give units and characters different life by offering new tactical options and interesting things that you can do with them. And so that's also part of the fun, is that, there may be a battle force that perfectly fits with the army that you want to make or the stories you want to tell. And the deficiencies of limiting yourself to the selection of whatever's allowed by that battle force is then made up for by maybe the command cards. The other thing that certain battle forces have, some of them do allow you to take units or other options from army building that you might not be able to take otherwise. We talked about at Mini Stravaganza how the Shadow Collective Battle Force is the only way currently that you can take the brand new Darth Maul. He's not Darth Maul anymore. He's just Maul, but it feels weird to only call him just Maul. It's like a really bad sitcom. We'll be right back with Just Maul. And then the Mandalorian Super Commandos, the Maul-Delorians as they're non-canonically called. So all of those, I'm going to grab some other paint here. This will work. Maul, formerly Darth, that works too. Darksaber Maul, sure. So Darksaber Maul, all that stuff. He can only be taken in the Shadow Collective currently, so that's the only way that you can play with that version of Maul. And then the Maul-Delorians are also locked into playing the Shadow Collective currently, so you can only use that unit when you're playing with the Shadow Collective. That's part of the big benefits, in addition to allowing you to play with all of the different mercenaries that are coming out that are part of the Shadow Collective as their own army instead of with other faction stuff. So there can be benefits like that. One of the ones we talked about in the Blizzard Force is that Blizzard Force does have a brand new Stormtrooper unit that it can take, which just introduces a new unit card for the basic Stormtrooper unit. And the big thing there is that it allows the Stormtrooper units to take multiple heavy weapons, because one of the things that we found during testing was the lack of heavy weapon options currently with snowtroopers was a deficiency in the list that we couldn't really overcome in any other way. Like command cards didn't quite solve it, anything like that. So we said, well, we do see some Stormtroopers there after the landing happens, so let's make this kind of specialized Stormtrooper unit that supports, it's, ideally designed to support the snowtroopers as they do their snowtrooper things. And that's where we went with that. And it worked out really well, and it's very cool. And it doesn't require players to do anything but utilize the stormtroopers that they already have from their Imperial armies in new ways. And so that's another way that battle forces are pretty neat, in that they add new options and ways to experience the collection that you might already have. Why not just make another snowtrooper heavy? Well, that probably will still happen at some point. But making miniatures is a much longer tail. And if we did that, you wouldn't be seeing the battle forces this year. And battle forces, it's a good point to bring up as well, battle forces can grow and expand as the line and Star Wars Legion grows and expands as well. So if in the future we introduce a new snowtrooper unit or new snowtrooper heavy options, those can get added into the current battle forces. So they can evolve, grow, and change as well as new options that make sense within their structure are released, all of that good stuff. No different than how standard Legion force construction really works. When a new expansion comes out, you can customize your force based on that new release and build around it. Battle forces kind of are living in the exact same way. A battle force is not sub-faction is probably the closest way to kind of describe it. Battle forces are simply new army construction rules that also come with perks and benefits. So, you may, as a new player or somebody who wants to dive into a new battle force, might have, a starter product or boxes like the Shadow Collective. The Shadow Collective starter is really just a battle force in a box. It helps you start your collection if you want to play Shadow Collective. Other products like that certainly could be viable. We may see more of them going forward. But if you already play, say, Rebels, and you have a pretty extensive collection, or you just have a collection in general, all you need are the Battle Force rules, which we will be making available for players to download in certain cases, just like the core rules themselves. And then you can construct your force using that and the print and play materials that come along with it, and you're good to go. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Just a quick little brown wash to make our leathers pop. Another thing. Burp. Will the new Maul have new command cards? He does have his own command cards. Colors do you want to go to next? Let's go to more of a white. Okay. So I'm going to grab a different brush here. I'm going to take this one. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this birch. Whoop. What else might we see? Well, we do have battle forces also, and we're going to be painting them for, of course, the other two factions. So Galactic Republic and the Separatist Alliance, or Confederacy of Independent Systems, depending on which name you like better. To me, they're always the Separatist Alliance, so that's just what I use. They also have some battle forces that are coming. We're going to be talking about those in future streams and painting stuff. But effectively, there will be one battle force per faction just to start, and then we'll start really building those out and going from there. Battle forces are really exciting from a development and design standpoint because they really open the doors on things that we can do thematically. Like I said, one of my favorite things is that they really breathe new life into existing releases and things that you may already have because they give you new ways to play with your favorite faction. And then from a brand new perspective, things like we announced Ewoks were coming to the game at Mini Stravaganza. One of the big things that allows us to be able to do Ewoks in a way that fits the Star Wars story and mythology and canon is because battle forces open up these ways to introduce groups that never went off-world and fought in galactic warfare, but were really important to the overall stories and some of the big battles of Star Wars. And battle forces are the perfect way to represent that, while also leaving player choice for people who want to just build their own stuff. Estimated time frame, I cannot. BK might, but I don't have the estimated time frame on when those announcements will be happening and stuff like that. That's definitely BK's realm, so maybe he has things to say about that. Maybe he's still being secret about it. I don't know. What else we got going on here? I think somebody asked about the 800-point game length state. We're always keeping our eye on events and stuff. I think, games grow and evolve and they kind of find their niche. If there are ways to affect that in a positive light, I think no one really has an argument for being able to play more games within whatever their game playing time is, as long as those games are completely fulfilling and exciting and they meet what you love about the game. So streamlining where we can and stuff like that without affecting the core experience of the game is always something that we keep our eye open for. But I don't think it's something that we've targeted as like a major problem in our look at it. So it's like one of those things where, if opportunity presents itself to tighten things up or maybe make positive change, we're always going to look very seriously at that. But it's not like something we're actively pursuing. Because I do think overall, Legion is kind of in that sweet spot as it seems at the moment. Got a little heavy with my dry brush there. Bad dry brush. Clean it up. We have been working on some train stuff that is pretty cool. There's not a ton I can say about that, but it's definitely in the works. And when it is ready to be revealed by BK and Summer, our wonderful marketing people, Summer who's now controlling the camera for me, from her command station behind the glass, we will let you know about that stuff. So, player choice lists are 100% of things, so battle forces don't replace anything that's come before. They're just more options. I did birch. I'm going to do this white sands, I think, because it's nice and white. A little brighter. We're just going to build up our layers here on this beautiful Tauntaun. So if you don't want to play a battle force and you want to just mix and match using the standard force construction system, do it. 100%. You can still absolutely build lists that way. In fact, we all assume that will still be kind of the de facto way most people approach the game. But there'll be a lot of fun and interesting decisions and choices that you can make, and new tactics and strategies that will be offered to explore through the battle forces, and that's part of what makes it really exciting and fun. Not only narratively can you tell, more canonical and accurate to the mythology kind of stories if you want to be narrative and recreate, like, say, the Battle for Endor with Ewoks. Battle forces really give you a tool to do that really well, and they give you benefits for that. They also open up, like I said before, a lot of really interesting tactics and strategies because they offer new opportunities. Playing with the entire original trilogy cast of main characters in one Legion Army list is a very unique and interesting experience. It is chock full of possibilities and potentials and combos and synergies that you don't normally get in that standard Legion Force org. It also poses its own challenges, So I think that's, the biggest thing and the most exciting part from a list building and player perspective is that team forces just open up more interesting questions, more strategies and tactics and things like that, and they just really bring the game to life in a way that enhances everything that's already going on with the very common and stock force construction. And again, if you happen to like units or have a real strong affinity for things, we talked a little bit about like the Galactic Republic Battle Force, which features the 501st under Anakin Skywalker. That theme, or that Battle Force theme, is really based around ARC troopers and kind of the crack veterans of the clone army. And so, that force construction kind of turns the normal army construction list on its head because it says you only have to take one core choice, but you have to take a special force choice as well. And then you have to take a support choice. So the army construction is a lot more varied just to start, and then you can really drive in and you can say, okay, well, I'm going to take a whole bunch of ARC Trooper choices because I really want to play an ARC Trooper list, and I'm not constrained by having to allocate all of my points to, for instance, just core troops. So I don't have to take basic clone troopers, so my budget can be spent elsewhere. And that makes for an interesting, army to build and allows you to really build out on certain units that you might find to be very enjoyable and fun. And then, you get your specific command cards and all of that stuff that go along with it. And it can lead to a very refreshing and different experience. Some things, like stuff like Ewoks, only be able to play in battle forces. No, that's usually the exception, not the rule. So, like for instance, if you look at the Shadow Collective stuff we talked about, outside of Maul and the Super Commandos, which again may wind up in a future battle force somewhere, things like they will either be normal rebel troopers or like rebel units, or the mercenaries add a whole new level of interest and army building like consideration to the game as well, because you can now, this will work. I grab this color for the horns, lay down this base color. So With mercenaries, you can now add things into the game that kind of change or showcase things that work in limited nature, because you can only take so many mercenary options and they don't count towards your requirements. Much like with the Echo Force or Echo-based defenders, Echo Force and Blizzard Force, I mashed those two right together. Oopsies. You might just be able to take more of something than you normally would, or you might have to focus on something. So, a battle force can be made up of normal troop choices, which you would be limited to in some certain ways in a standard force org that you might not be limited to in the battle force. So there are all kinds of possibilities and options. But the goal is to maintain, again, that strong piece of player choice and general list creation that is currently in Legion, and expand upon it with the battle forces themselves to add more opportunity and options to the game itself. I think that's part of the horn. Yeah, we're going to say it is. Can't really tell. I think it is, though. Sure, the horns are just made of whatever. Our first order resistance. Who knows what the future holds? Release the budgies. I can't talk about anything that's super far in the future or what those plans are. Some cases, they're not even decided yet. So, who knows? But, we're excited to continue to explore and expand on what is currently the foundation of Legion and take it in different directions. And, I think there's a lot of fun areas to explore. Battle forces and mercenaries have really opened the door on kind of the next big phase, but there's a lot of ground still to cover and everywhere, really. And that's before even talking about, what potential new factions might there be, what other eras might we cover, all of that stuff. As the new Boba, I don't believe that the new Boba Fett has a release date that we've currently announced, outside of what we said at Mini Extravaganza, which is the expectation is this year, like end of year. So that's what we were targeting. Obviously, supply chain issues and everything else. It's still quite crazy out there, shockingly. So we do our best to make sure that everything is turned in on time based on our hope for release schedule, and then kind of leave it in the hands of the amazing production staff and logistics team at Asmodee Production to take it from there. And what happens, and we kind of just roll with it at this point. So, but believe me when I say no one here is very interested in keeping all of the cool releases away from people. It's definitely our desire and goal to make sure that you all get everything as timely as possible. But the world is what it is, and there are a lot of extenuating circumstances to it. So, the theme for I don't think I really mentioned the theme for the first CIS Battle Force yet. No, I didn't do that. I'll save that one for a future stream, because we're going to be covering, I think Dallas is actually going to be painting droids next week, maybe? So tune in Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Watch the social media announcements for everything, but I'm pretty sure that's the plan. So we'll give them some juicy nuggets to drop during that stream while he paints. He can let you all know what the theme is and some of the cool highlights from it, like we did with the Echo-based Defenders one a little bit. So, next Mini Extravaganza, that's a BK question. We're currently in the works on planning with it and everything. so many questions about all of these future releases that y'all know I can't answer, and I'm not going to. You're not going to catch me. I've got this figured out. I know your games, chat. I know your games. Come on, Abyssal Blue. Oh, that color is not coming out. That's okay. Huldra Blue. No, we're not going to use that today. I know. Shocking. I would be shocked if we don't wind up painting more pikes. We haven't painted Black Sun Syndicate yet on stream. So I would guess that the plan, we'll see a lot of those winding up on stream as we get closer to the release of the Shadow Collective. We just got a whole bunch of our early samples in for that stuff. So it was pretty cool to see all of the factory samples and everything, which also means that we do have plastic to paint, which is the first step of made a little mess there, which is the first and most important step of any painting stream, is to have the thing to paint. So Pagani talked a little bit about that in one of our interviews, and of course we're huge proponents and fans of scenario play and their impact on the game and, you know, the overall meta, army list construction, everything about the tactics and strategy. So definitely the plan is to I'm just going to leave that alone. Definitely the plan is to expand on scenario options and the battle cards and stuff like that. I don't know, I don't have any specifics for you during this stream, but it is something that we're looking at and talking about. So it wouldn't surprise me to see more of that stuff in the future. Oh, I don't know if I like this color. I'm going to change it. Yeah, all the Battle Force stuff that we're talking about here, so these first 4 and everything, they're just going to be part of the rules downloads. So if you want to play with them with your existing collection, that will be totally an option that you can just go right in and do. Easy peasy. Yeah, sure, why not? We'll use this. Battle Forces, at least some of them, are absolutely kind of, I think great starting points for players who, given the size of the line and everything else that you have to consider with it, they can be perfect starting points for some players. But they're not intended to be only that, They have value both to folks who are just getting into their Legion journey, to folks who have been playing forever, and the goal is to make sure that they're available in a couple of different ways for folks that want them. Or maybe you're an existing player and one of the Battle Forces really appeals to you. You don't play clones, but you really like the 501st. Maybe the 501st Battle Force becomes the thing that's like, oh, I can get into this, and I just kind of play this one little subset whenever I want to break from my primary love, and that's cool. From a hobbyist perspective, those Battle Force ideas and sub-factions just lead to a whole lot of opportunity and options, because if you want to go crazy and your thing is converting and, building thematic and unique troops for your force, the Battle Forces are kind of like a great prompt for that, because you can dive in and just make them your own. Talking about the Blizzard Force Stormtrooper unit, maybe you want to go in and you get really inspired, you have an amazing idea, and you want to dive in and start converting those Stormtroopers to look really kind of unique and cool, and have them really fit the overall feel of the theme force from Hoth. You can absolutely do that. And maybe with the CIS one, you have a unique color scheme in mind for your own force, and that just kind of gives you the rails. It gives you the guide rails to be able to go in and explore things in a really unique and fun way. And so that's, I think, one of the things that's so also exciting, very exciting to me, as somebody who really enjoys the hobby aspect as well, and telling my own stories and building my own unique stuff. And it's part of what got Dallas on making those ATSTs, and inspiration behind some of his Imperial forces was the battle force kind of sparking his imagination and everything. So there's a lot of really great hobby potential as well with this stuff, and that's pretty cool. We've talked about a lot, and I know Dallas really is great at discussing on his streams because he's so in-depth in the process. But anything that involves a new miniature, whether it's changing an old unit from soft plastic to hard plastic, sculpting something that's brand new, all that stuff has a very long timeline. It's the common production cycle for anything that's miniatures related is 18 to 24 months, depending on what it is and how much there is to it and all that stuff. So anything like that is going to take, a little bit of time. So if we haven't talked about it at Last Mini Extravaganza, that doesn't mean that it's not happening, but it also means that, it's not going to happen this year for sure. And we do like to keep some surprises close to the vest. So we don't announce everything. A good studio doesn't show all of its surprises. We like to keep some things for the wows. But by and large, especially with Last Mini Extravaganza, we kind of put all the cards on the table to make sure that everyone had a good roadmap for where we're going, what we're thinking, all that stuff. And most of this year has just been executing it. And that's part of the reason why, we talked about the very first 100% AMG Legion miniature is that new Boba Fett. And if you kind of go from when we showed him and where he was in his cycle, because we certainly showed an early work in progress of him, you see 18 to 24 months, right? It all lines up. The math totally works with how soon we're able to show stuff and everything like that. Next Mini Extravaganza, BK, I'm sure will be announced or revealing that more. Obviously, we try very much to get 2 in a year. So I hope that there will be some big announcements for that in the next month or two, at least to let you know what to expect. But we are talking about it. We're definitely planning on it. It's something that we have a lot of fun doing, and we want to keep up with. It's been not only great just due to the pandemic and kind of how travel and everything has become a little less simple as it used to be, but also it's just a fun way to be able to connect with everybody in the community, and people who may not have the ability to travel as much to certain conventions, or you're not location bound. You just hop on the internets and join us and hang out, talk and chat and see all the cool stuff. So absolutely something that we're going to keep doing. So it's fun, as fun for us, I think, or more fun maybe than it is for you all. Hopefully it's equal. Hard to say. How many units are in the Shadow Collective box? There are 3 units, I think. Making me do math while I sit here and paint. Everything, I know all of the units were shown in the teaser. Not the complete units, but at least the initial offering of unit types. So you've got your Pikes, you've got your Black Sun, you've got your Super Commandos. Those kind of form the core launch of the experience. And each one of those is represented in the starter box. So, along with Mr. Maul. If Dallas can eat 40 donuts an hour, how many donuts can he eat in a year? I have no clue. Nope, I'm out. I'm not even going to try. A lot of donuts. More donuts than humanly should be possible. Dallas needs to cut back on his donut addiction. That's what I say to that. Dallas needs to pump the brakes on his donut eating. I'm concerned for him. I'm very worried. Gunslinger 202. I didn't say anything about that. We talked very briefly about one Wookiee, and that was Chewbacca. That was Chewbacca as part of the Echo-based Defender Force. Oh, Summer's whispering to Tony. Something's happening. It's making me nervous.
We have the donut answer.
Oh, Tony did the donut math? My goodness. 350,400 donuts in a year, assuming no breaks. That's a lot of donuts. Dallas, please don't do that. Stop. We're all worried about you. Well, there was the teaser, and then we also did the Legion panel where we talked more in depth about the things that were shown in the teaser. I don't think, now that I'm painting these, I don't think that Tauntauns actually have black nails like a dog, but this one does. Because that's what I did. Shh, it's fine. This is what happens when I have to pay more attention to chat than I do the miniature. Sometimes I get lost, confused. Do what I want. And BK, give the people their mini extravaganza. They want it. I can't. I hope mini extravaganza will be, soon. We're still planning on 2 this year, so unless they're going to be like back to back, which would be weird. Like I mentioned, you should be seeing some good info about it here soon. I would guess in the next month or so, for sure. At least with a rough timeline. My 2 little dogs that we adopted during COVID times, when they get really riled up in their play fighting, they make noises like tauntauns. Cracks me up. Going to be different units, rotate for roles, I'm sure. Each of them definitely has changes. I'm pretty sure each of them has changes to the general force construction rule. But without the rules directly in front of me, I fear to even guess because I'll get it wrong, and then people will be like, well, you lied to us. And I'll be like, I just made a mistake. So I'll save that for when I have the info directly in front of me. I just kind of wrote down some quick hit notes because we're not technically at the point where we're supposed to be spoiling everything for the rules yet. So we're going to have people asking about the website. I think we've talked about this a little bit as well in a couple different places, but I've been told and promised by our fabulous website artiste. I don't know. Can you be a website artist? I think so. The new and fully operational website will be unleashing its magnificence upon all of us in March. Is that true, Summer? March? That was the last update I remember.
For the website going live?
Yeah.
Maybe end of March, early April.
All right, so Summer says end of March, early April, and I would trust Summer with more than my life. So there you go. One of the Echo-based command cards gives standby orders to all emplacements. Yes. There are 2 others, because there are 3. There's 1 for each pip. So that's not the only command card, but that is one of the cooler ones, and obviously plays pretty well with the FD laser cannons and the idea of, the Echo-based defenders are very focused on kind of the defensive posturing. They're not the aggressors. So the theme force is very much kind of based around that idea of them digging in and trying to hold out for as long as possible, whereas the Blizzard Force, theme force, obviously really kind of focuses more on the offensive assault, the push. So we'll be there. There'll be language translations for the rules reference guide. I would assume so, although that is handled not internally. That's part of the overall Asmodee system. So I can't really give you a perfect answer on that. Localization and all of that stuff for Legion, X-Wing, and really all the games that we do is a big kind of focus and push. So I would assume if it's not there yet, there will be one in the works. But that's kind of the best I can offer. I'm not a font of endless information, unfortunately, in some things. Much like Dallas, there are things that I know, and then there are things that I don't know because I don't particularly have a direct hand in them. And I'm not going to put Summer on the spot because I know that Summer doesn't either. So, see, I'm not always mean, Summer. I know. That's not true. I just have to lull Summer into a false sense of security, and then I know. I'm at that point where I'm just kind of supervillaining her onto the big red X on the floor. And once she's standing on that X, that's when I pull the lever. Pull the lever! Or, IP appropriate, I am slowly maneuvering her towards the carbonite freezing system so that I can better transport her for her audience with the Emperor. I don't know who the Emperor is in this case, because you already directly interact with Simone as your superior, but there's somebody. We have to take you somewhere, and the only way to do that is in a hunk of carbonite. Man, you're a parent. Can you imagine how much, and Tony's a parent, he's in here too. Can you imagine how much nicer long road trips would be if you could carbonite freeze your children?
Oh, gosh.
Or myself, I don't know where.
No, you have to drive. Battle forces are tournament legal, so they're 100% tournament legal. They're just simply options, as we discussed earlier in the stream. But for those who might have joined us a little late, battle forces are just as legal as standard forces. They're going to offer you different army construction. They're going to offer you different perks because they're going to limit your unit choices as well. So it all comes down to, where you think your best tactics and options and opportunity come from. You can play them more thematically if you want, and certainly they lend themselves to a greater degree of reenactment. So if you want to just reenact the battle for Hoth, you could certainly take Blizzard Force and Echo-based defenders and pit them against each other on a thematic table and just relive your Empire Strikes Back dreams, and that would be super cool. But if you want to simply run an Imperial force composed mostly of snow troopers in a tournament, you can 100% do that as well. So, carbon tykes, oh my gosh, that's so perfect. I love it. I love it. Yeah, they're kind of, I mean, they certainly are kind of like a sub-faction. You can approach them that way. They're self-contained, so obviously if you choose to play with the battle force, you can't add whatever you want to them. They have to be listed as a legal ad in the thing. I'm just going to try to see if I can get the stuff. Our Battle Force box is 800 points. Are they all equal points? So the Battle Force, if we're talking about, no, maybe. So Battle Force boxes don't really exist as like, if the ones that would be starters, like just like the core, they'll be different. I don't really have an answer to that. I'm not entirely sure what the question is, I guess. So, for those who are asking and might have missed it, you will be able to just download the Battle Force rules because they're just Army construction rules, and then you can print and play any of the materials that you need and don't have. So, you don't have to necessarily buy anything new to be able to play with them. So if you have a big collection and you can just go right away because you've been playing for a long time, you can do that with these upcoming Battle Forces. No problemo. Shadow Collective is the only thing that is associated with a Battle Force box. It definitely is not 800 points. It's more of a starter. So it like think of it like kind of how the core sets work, right? It gives you enough to get in and enough options that you have a good foundation, but then it's up to you to build out your army your way, following what is available to the Battle Force. So, maybe you want to focus on more pikes, so you can go that direction. Maybe you want to focus on more of a mix. Maybe you want more super commandos. The Shadow Collective box is definitely a starter in that it gets you a foundation, and then it's up to you to take it in whatever direction you want. You know what? I said I wasn't going to use Holder Blue. I'm going to use Holder Blue. I'm having fun. I got 5 minutes left. How many ATSTs can the... I don't have those notes. But, we'll talk more about them in the future. We got some time. We got a lot of cool things to discuss. But like I said, if I start talking about specifics on the force construction for any of the battle forces without them in front of me, I'm going to say something wrong, and then everyone will be mad and disappointed, and I'll be disappointed. And I don't want that. I don't want to come into the office for playtest and have Will Pagani look at me with his sad doe eyes and just slowly shake his head. AT-ATs and Legion. The only thing I can say about that is that, holy cow, would those be big. That would be a very, very large miniature. I might even go so far as to say it is a bigature. It would be cool. So who knows, Crazier things have been discussed. Field gray, let's use this. That's like totally clogged. How much time do we have left? Oh, you got me for 4 more minutes. So if you have any other questions, I did not quite finish this Tauntaun like I was hoping, but y'all were just asking so much good stuff. I wanted to try and, oh my gosh, we need a buzzy thing. We need a little paint mixer. Some of these poor scale 75 paints are really separated.
Dallas said the same thing last week. It's already on my list.
I got one. It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's for a science lab. I like using it because then everyone knows in the house that I'm painting because it's super loud. It's like, brrr! When I used to paint in the mornings before everyone got up, it was great because it's like how I could like low-key, passively aggressive, make everyone get up. Kind of like when you use the coffee grinder in the morning because you're out of coffee.
I'm in the kitchen when I make my coffee.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets up.
We grind whole beans for our coffee stuff. So like, if in the rare instance I get up and there's no coffee, then I will always punish my wife by grinding the coffee as early as possible. And I'm like, look, if you don't want this to happen, you should make sure the coffee doesn't run out when you use it. It's great. Yeah, vortex mixers are pretty nice. Most paints don't need them most of the time, but like when you run into a situation where you're like, oh, I wish I had one, they're invaluable. Our old bounty hunter is getting looked at for Shadow Collective. So we talked about this a little bit in the mini extravaganza panel. Not because of the Shadow Collective, but because of the new mercenary rules. We went back and we did a relook at all of the 3 bounty hunters, Cad Bane, Boba Fett, and Bosk, and we did update their cards and rules to make them into true mercenaries. So they are getting kind of a relook, and there were some small adjustments that were made during that relook. Like they're not radically different in any way. You're still going to recognize them very much, but the mercenary stuff does mean that some of them get to work for additional factions now. It affects some of their basic rules. We talked about during Mini Extravaganza how mercenaries typically have the independent rule, so they can't be issued orders by commanders that aren't part of their faction identity. Their agenda, I believe, is the correct term if I'm using my proper rules, my big boy rules language. But mercenaries gain a benefit if they don't get an order, so you're kind of like in this situation where, you get less control over their activation, but the trade-off for that is that they do gain some bonuses for being, loners, as it were. Strong-willed individuals, like 12-year-old children. Summer knows what I'm talking about. Super strong. Operative Luke invaders allowed in the battle force. Operative Luke is not allowed in the Echo-based Defenders battle force because he wasn't that Luke. So that's kind of a theme thing, right? You can take Commander Luke Skywalker, but not Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. And then Operative Vader, I think he is allowed, but don't quote me on that because I don't have the list in front of me and I don't remember. It's 2 o'clock. Where's my flashing red light, Summer? The bounty hunter changes are definitely smaller than Darth Vader changes, I guess. I don't know. That's a hard one to quantify, Cupcake Hunter. You could feel like they're bigger. I don't recall them being quite as wild. So that is not true. I get held to everything that I say. That's how the world works. It's fine. It's fine. You know what you're doing. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Here is the mostly base-coated Tauntaun. I got a lot of work left to do on it, but that's okay. I'll come back to it, and then I got another writer to paint as well. So I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to tune in next Wednesday. Dallas Kemp will be back on at 1 p.m. Pacific. He'll be painting stuff. Oh, I'm supposed to look over here now. Sorry, I'm still watching all the chat stuff. We need a hand signal for that. That's what we need. I know. But it's hard to catch you out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, so Dallas will be on tomorrow. He'll be doing some more hobbying stuff with Marvel Crisis Protocol. Join us again next week. Dallas Kemp will be on with more Legion painting goodness. I believe he's going to be painting something with the Separatist Alliance. Like I said, we'll give him some nuggets of info to drop for the Battle Force that corresponds with that upcoming release. And that'll be at 1 p.m. Pacific as well. And of course, I'll be back on Tuesday painting some more Marvel stuff at 1 p.m. Pacific too. That's a weird way to say it. Whatever. Until then, stay beautiful, be good to each other, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye. It is my first time on stream. It's true. It's because I'm dying in this hoodie. It's so hot.